Oh, Queen Justice, where are you? Did they beat you up or no? Lock you underground, take the crown away from you?
Oh, Lady Liberty, red, white, and blue. Did they take your dignity with their bigotry? Teach you that you're born to lose.
Free or guilty, it's gonna get filthy. Better believe, roll up your sleeves. It's gonna get rough, it's gonna be tough. We all agree, we've had enough.
We've had enough of all the rules you break. We've had enough of all the money you make. We've had enough, no more life at stake. We've had enough, this is a proclamation. It's been 400 years and we're 400 late. Together we stand from state to state. Going back in time won't make America great. We need justice now, people won't wait.
Action, no more distraction. Every step we take, we gain traction. If it can happen to one, it can happen to all. United we stand, divided we fall. Free or guilty, it's gonna get filthy. Better believe, roll up your sleeves. It's gonna get rough, it's gonna be tough. We all agree, we've had enough.
We've had enough of all the rules you were breaking. We've had enough of all the money you were making. We've had enough, no more life gets taken. We've had enough, this is a proclamation.
Free or guilty, it's gonna get filthy. Better believe, just roll up your sleeves. It's gonna get rough, it's gonna be tough. We all agree, we've had enough.
We've had enough of all the rules you're breaking. We've had enough, all the money you're making. We've had enough, no more life gets taken. We've had enough, this is the proclamation.
We've had enough. Trayvon Martin and Tommy Rice. We've had enough. Michael Brown and Eric gonna pay the price. We've had enough. Philando, Breonna, George Floyd. What? We've had enough. So many gone. How can we fill the void?
How can we feel?
We've had enough. John Crawford, I know you've heard. We've had enough. Sandra Bland, come on and take a stand. We've had enough. Sean Bell, what the hell? We've had enough. Freddie Gray, did you hear what I said? We've had enough.
This is a proclamation.
I'm Al McFarlane. Welcome to Conversations with Al McFarlane. Glad to be here and glad to have you along as well. I tell you, a wonderful program is promised. I'm having fun just thinking about the conversation that's about to go down. Last week we had a marvelous conversation involving artists from around the country here in Jamaica, New York, or Boston. And we want to continue that conversation today. We're pleased to have joining us from Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, Brother Maliku Belte. Am I saying that right, brother?
Malapalayel. Hello, everybody. Hello, Douglas. Happy to see you.
Hello.
Yeah.
Great. Douglas
Hello.
Ewart is here. Douglas Ewart is a fixture in Minnesota, in the country. Great artist, great musician, great designer, creator, inventor of musical instruments. Also here, joining us again from last week, Brother Charles Caldwell.
Hello,
and
everybody.
For the first time,
Hey,
I'm meeting
Yes.
Brother Sean Garrison, who I've heard so much about. Brother Garrison, so good to see you as well. I'm expecting both Tacumba and Robert Powell to jump into the call. And like last week, this is unscripted. This is several people meeting and talking about what's on our minds, sharing a conversation, words, thoughts, feelings between us with the world that we connect with through social media and through our live broadcast here on KFAI. Kudos, shout out to KFAI for being the resource it is in the community. Kudos to the Black Press of America. We're streaming this program live, not only on the McFarlane Media social media platforms, but also at Black Press USA Facebook page. And I want to invite anyone listening to connect and share this conversation. I guarantee you it's going to be important. I want to start with Brother Douglas Ewart. Douglas, you and I talked, and I mentioned that I wanted you to get on the program last week, but I didn't call you in time. And you said, call me anytime because I'm ready to talk. But I want to start with that. What's on your mind when you're thinking about art, your history, your contribution to the world of art, and where we are as a community? Keep in mind the two songs we just heard, Sick and Tired of Being Sick and Tired by The Sounds of Blackness, and the song that Ryan did talking about Enough is Enough. What do you think, Douglas Ewart?
Hey, first of all, I'm so happy to be here with everyone. It's great to be alive and to be here in Minneapolis, Minnesota, not far from where George Floyd was murdered. Those things are at the pinnacle of my thoughts. I also feel like we can't get weary. I'm more than sick and tired. However, I know that this is a fight that's going to take some time to make the progress that we need to, because it took over 400 years for us to get to where we are. And I know it's not going to vanish overnight. Humans learn very slowly. We think we're so smart, but it shows you that even COVID is smarter than we are. And so, because we don't recognize the intelligence of other life forms. And so we think that we are somehow dominant. I think that, I'm a musician, composer, maker of things. And some of the things I think came by way of DNA, and some of it by environmental influences, having grown up in Jamaica in a culture where we make and made many of the things we utilized. When I was coming up, people would even repair pots. They would take the bottom off an old pot. Can you imagine using a pot till it's no longer usable because of the bottom? And a technician would march through the streets, advertise his services, and put a new bottom on the pot to be further used. So I think those things are really important in terms of looking at the finite resources of the earth and not indulging in what I call false affluence. Um, I don't want to deviate too far, but I just read about a man that had 5,000 cars worth 2 point something trillion, $2.3 trillion. And I just wonder, what's the point of that in a world where people are suffering, people are hungry, people are homeless? Um, and I collect things too. So I understand the propensity to collect, but I can't understand that kind of extravagance and its waste when you think about it. I think it's important for artists' work to speak to the conditions that we're involved in or in embroiled in, and also to be speaking of a better time, like the song the young people were giving us. And I think one of the important things to do is to listen to the young people. Sometimes we rail against new concepts and new ways, but so were we at one time. The old elders might not have completely understood what we said, but I'll I'll say that my work is about life, and that I remain optimistic, staunchly optimistic, positive all the time. And the Rasta say, we've been down in the valley for a very long time, but we never get weary yet. And I'll leave it right there for now.
Sean Garrison, jump in right here. I know that I was reading your material that you were on the scene at Hennepin County Government Center when the jury was coming in to present a verdict against the officer, Derek Chauvin, who was convicted of killing George Floyd. And the notes I saw said that you weren't sure how that day was going to unfold. You came there with the blank canvas set up, and you were going to record impressions, feelings. Talk about that and how that went down. And in talking about it, how does it describe your role and the role of artist and community in society and environment?
Well, I'll start with the second part of that question first, because the first part is going to be a little long-winded, and I don't want to forget the second part. So, first of all, thanks for having me on the show. Appreciate y'all for reaching out. Appreciate you all for having me, and it's always good to be amongst good brothers, especially good creative brothers, because I can feel this energy, even though we're doing it through this cold machine called a computer. But I do appreciate being amongst the presence of greats. So the way I see role of artists is that we're obligated, right, to speak to what is going on in our society, in this country, in this world. Even if we want to, expand it that far out, but we're obligated because we have a platform. That's the way I feel about it, right? And so once we get this platform where folks are actually listening to you, and that's regardless of whatever art medium this is, it could be music, it could be dance, whatever the case may be. If someone is listening, we have an obligation to speak to what's jacked up in our community, in our society, especially I'm talking about issues of social justice and things of that nature. I mean, it's imperative to me for that, that we do that as artists. And if we don't, I think it's just a waste or a dereliction of your God-given talent to open your mouth and be brave. Once you claim that title of an artist, you claim the title of being brave and courageous. Utilize that and then be about that, and then do the good work. I mean, I love doing artwork that goes above people's couches or on a hotel wall or in some clinic. That's great, but that's good for sight and visual purposes. This work that we do for the people, that resonates, decades and generations. And so, that's why I do what I do. And that's what I think artists need to do. And all the artists that I know, I kind of put that buzz in the air, like, hey, this is really a great piece of work, but what are you doing for the people? because we need it. We need all hands on deck, all paintbrushes on deck. So that's my take. And historically, that's how we've been, right? The griots and the storytellers. That's been our role. So why drop that mic right now, especially at this time? So back to the piece with that officer. I don't call that person by name because I refuse to humanize that cat. So the way it came about is that shortly after Brother George Floyd was murdered, I had made a decision that I was going to be out in the street painting whatever energy I felt. Right? I didn't know when, at that point, I didn't know when the court date was. I just knew that I was going to be out there. Because I remember how it was when the Love Rising was going down, right? And I call it Love Rising. Some folks call it riots. Some call it uprisings. I call them Love Risings because people reacted out of love, not out of hateful building. They didn't rise up. No, we rose up out of love, right? So I made the decision to be out there. Now, granted, I assumed I would be painting in the middle of a war zone. The rubber bullets, tear gas, and I was ready. I had my gas mask. I was in the process looking for a vest, the whole nine. But I figured no one messes with an artist standing on, especially if he's out there with a paintbrush or canvas in the middle of this, They probably think I'm halfway crazy anyway, so they wouldn't even worry about me. But so anyway, time passed a little bit, but when I heard the verdict was going down, I was readying myself for it. Not the verdict, I'm sorry, but the court date. And about 3 weeks prior to the court date happening, I ran into this news reporter for this other thing I was doing, and I told the guy what I was going to do. And I said, well, if you want to, you think it's newsworthy to cover some crazy cat, some artists in the middle of the street while people are being emotional amongst tanks and everything else, then I'll be here, right? And so the day the verdict was going to be announced, he calls me and he says, "Hey, are you going to do what you're going to do?" I said, "Of course, I'll meet you down there." So get down to the grounds of the government center, and it was, I was on edge because we all know how these things turn out 9.5 out of 10 times. Anxiety was a little shaky, and I was waiting for the explosion. I mean, I just knew, just based on what our experiences are, and again, mind you, I watched all the videos of these shootings of brothers and sisters, at length, each and every one of them, right? And I do that because it keeps me raw, and I create better out of that space. Some people think I'm re-traumatizing myself. I wouldn't say that. It just keeps me close. So anyway, I anticipated this thing going totally left. Had my gas mask, had my canvas, had my spot where I was gonna move to the paint. If the spot I was in didn't work, I did everything that a cat who grew up in the city does. You assess your surroundings. And then the verdict came in. And actually, let me back up a little bit. So I started painting it. I started doing a piece of artwork. It was real dark because I anticipated this thing was going to be just a mess and we were going to be disappointed again. But it turned out something that was totally, I'm still kind of shook that we actually got the verdict, that, the verdict came in the way it should have come in. So anyway, it went from something dark to something that was more hopeful. And after that, it was being on, ended up on MSNBC for a hot minute, and that was interesting. And things just kind of took off from there. Paint was up for an auction for a second, and so it's been great. I mean, I still have the painting. I look at it every now and then, like, this is pretty slick. But that moment was it was a powerful moment. I mean, to hear the people just be jubilant, from the most innocent and righteous spot, it was a beautiful thing as opposed to what we're used to getting, and listen to all these exhalations of being kicked in the gut again.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So
maybe you can, before the program is over, screen share. and talk about that art. And I think we have some of Douglas Ewart's art ready to screen share as well. Let me go next to brother over at Findiki Cultural Center in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. Brother, good to see you. Good to meet you. Brother Malaku Bile is the director of Findiki Cultural Center. He's a dancer and choreographer with traditional and contemporary Ethiopian dance. And the center itself uh, seeks to celebrate and renew Ethiopia's rich cultural heritage. It welcomes and nurtures all creative souls through the exchange of music, of dance, of art, and poetry, meditates on peace and humanity and oneness. His website says the vision for Fendika is to continue to nurture the creative community in Addis Ababa and to grow into one of Africa's most vibrant centers for artistic innovation and cultural exchange grounded in rich Ethiopian heritage. Brother, so good to meet you. So glad to have you. You tell us more about your work and the mission at Fendika.
Thank you very much, and I'm very happy and to meet you all, and especially also to see Douglas again and all my brothers. And I'm very happy to meet you and also to have this opportunity and to share here the other side of the world. And I'm here from Ethiopia, and we have, as you said, more than 84 different dance, more than different 60 different language, and our alphabet called Amharic in Ethiopian alphabet. Uh, Still the culture is very lively because it's not mixed, very lively. And the problem is we don't know how much we have, but the culture himself is strong. That's why it's alive. And when thinking we have the culture, many people thinking like a museum is dead, but the culture is very modern, is very alive. And I'm very proud people. We are, and because not colonized, very all the freedom. Naturally, we grown up with that proud. So that's every the society teach me, and when I born with dance, and all the when I born in all the people, the way of life, dance, the way of life, music is the way of life. And so that make me uh, inspire. And when I grown up and I have to show for the world our culture in Ethiopia. So as a dancer, when I grown up, I'm uh, I'm a street children because of the war, and my mom, she's run away in Sudan, refuge, and then I grown up with my cousin when they're die, and I go to street. Still, I'm dancing. Dance is saving me, and so there is Asmari. Asmari is like a griot, his storyteller, but the difference is Asmari is improvising. People visit Asmari what is today like a newspaper. They are improvising what is going on in the world and the society. They are critics, the justice and racism or anything. They are really important for the society, for human being. And so this Asmari place in Fandika, the now cultural center, 23 years ago, I started dance there in Fandika. I asked permission. There is no salary, and by tip, I'm dancing. And so traditional and dancing under people not respect and they want appreciate the Western modern way of thinking. And so as a dancer, difficult to have a space also. There is no dance association, or dance is not accepted as art. So that make me angry. And so I meditate with dance and I'm survive with dance. People enjoy with dance. There is a lot of resource. So anyway, after 12 years, I rent Fandika. The first time I start salary for this griot or Azmari salary, and also the dancer, I start choreograph, and after try to bring out the importance of Ethiopian culture and to keeping the creativity to make a space. And so at that time I start composing choreograph, people is starting love it. So through the dance, through the music, also express the problem of justice, and it's so many things to express. It's not easy because when you have your own principle, difficult. The majority go to find survival or stuff. So I'm trying to fight. After the government want to destroy Fandika area, this Azmaris venue, the name of development. So nobody see it keeping this culture. After I want to buy from the owner the place. After international people support and understand my thoughts or working creativity, anyway, we save it, the place, become now giving the art gallery by free for artists, and offering library and Azmari, and not only tradition now, starting also jazz music is a new composition they write, and also poetry program, and also a children program, and handcrafts product program. So become artists community center. So
Let me
very active.
let me jump in,
Yeah.
Malaku.
Yeah.
You know,
Sorry.
I'm loving the direction of the conversation because it's important to have a sense of the intentionality, the practicality of paying attention to the business of art and the business of life. And too often we separate and we expect artists to be starving artists, to be poor. We expect musicians to live with nothing, but you rejected that model and said that it's important for you to invest and put on salary the dancers and the artists that you engaged at the center. And I wanted to go to Charles and ask you, Charles, to talk about, the dilemma that an artist, a creative, faces. Maybe not just an artist, maybe every human being, but we know it through the stories of art and the image of the starving artist, right? And the particular challenges that we as Africans in the New World, as New World Africans, as African Americans experience in not only both creating to serve our own people, our own culture, as well as all human beings through our art as customers. But sometimes we find such resistance to our people valuing our ideas, our work, and our thought. And to me, it means that we're not valuing, it's not the consumer or our consumer undervaluing the Black art or artist. It's the Black consumer undervaluing himself, herself, their own identity, their own worth. And if that is the case, what do you think about that? And how do we deal with that? I'll start with you, Charles, and go around everybody respond to that.
Well, there's several different ways that, us as artists create and market and try to monetize our talents and what we do, and a lot of different aspects of motivation. For one thing is the time that it takes to create a great piece of artwork. You know, you take an original piece of artwork and depending on the size format that you work in, you create a great piece of artwork. You know, I liken it to like Alibaba and the 40 Thieves when they went into the cave and seen all of those rich treasures, and they had to decide, you know, what should we take? How much can we take, and how can we make it out of here? And so when I look into my mind of creativity, I see all these different visions and images, and I try to think which one can I spend the time to create, and how much time is it going to take me to create that vision. And so I may take a piece of painting, and I may spend 200 hours on a pencil drawing that's 30 by 40. And if you calculate that in hourly wage, you certainly want to be way past the minimum wage. So just say if you calculated yourself at $25 an hour, $30 an hour, and then you'd end up somewhere around $10,000, $15,000 that you have spent that much time to create a masterpiece. But then someone out comes up and they're interested, and then you tell them, you know, they say, well, how much you want for this painting? And you say, you know, $5,000, $10,000, and they look at you like you're crazy. And then they try to figure out why it's worth that much. But I'm 58, and it took my lifetime to get to creating a masterpiece today. Whereas when I was a kid, I have a great piece of Dr. Martin Luther King that I would have sold for $500 when I created it as a young man. And that piece today is valued at about $35,000, $40,000. So the value continues. So what I was able to do is do reproductions. And so reproductions allows you to have that original piece of artwork, but it also gives the public the opportunity of affordability. You can sell it for anywhere from $5 to $5,000 on depending on how it's presented, or you can gift someone with it. So right now I do a lot of reproductions, and I have a collection of probably 50 originals. Looking forward to the day to have a big showing with just originals that I've created over the years. But to survive as an artist, like I said, if you spend a month or 2 months creating a painting and you sell it for $1,000, you really can't. That's not affordability, and that great piece is gone, and it went to one person. Whereas, you know, reproduction gives you opportunity to keep that original piece and move it on. But I just want to share this awesome experience I had this weekend. I was down at the Minneapolis Convention Center where they were having the Martin Luther King celebration, and I had myself on display with my work. And I also had some copies of work that my daughter has created, and as well as my son. It's just awesome to be a person and have a creative person and have your children be so inspired by what you've done that they are on that same stage that you're on, and you're representing them. And so a young lady came up and said, wow, she said, I just heard you were over here, and I just had to come over here and meet you, Mr. Caldwell. She said, I left my booth to come over here just to see you because I was in a shop. And I was looking at these paintings. I went there to do some shopping, and I couldn't do my shopping because I was looking at the artwork in this place. And I was just so fascinated and so amazed by it. And so she started describing the piece to me, and I'm kind of looking a little, you know, bewildered. But I said, yeah, okay, yeah. And then she described another piece, and then I said, well, you know, I appreciate all that is great inspiration and excitement you're sharing, but I think that might be my son. And so she said, oh, wow, your son. She said, oh, my goodness. She said, you have really been an example to him because I'm just overwhelmed and amazed. And then another young lady was there purchasing some pieces, and it was my daughter's work. And so I'm just, you know, and one of the things that I did say to them is, you know, keep a job. Your artwork is great and people love it, but you're gonna have to keep a job so you can pay your bills. And every time you get the opportunity to do more art and get to a place of affordability. I'm sure all of us as artists can agree that if all we were able to do is just focus on our creativity and just the artwork, we wouldn't worry about the monetary aspect of it, and we'd create more and probably even greater art. But aspect of survival goes into the vision of what you're working on and what you're creating, because you got to think, I know I'm going to have to spend so many hours on this piece of work. So is this going to be the piece that I'm going to be able to sell, or am I just using my creative freedom right now? So it's kind of a place we get to be in, where if we get the freedom to create for the sake of creating, as opposed to for the sake of surviving monetarily, it's a different kind of energy and a different kind of creative space to operate in. So I just try to, right now, I'm trying to operate in a space of just being creative, because the message is so demanding right now. And through my work, my message is that, you know, we haven't made progress, we have made advancement, and we have hope. I always say 100 years from now, when we're all gone, the work that we create today is what represents us. We contradict the lie that says that Black fathers don't take care of their families, because we create images of Black fathers and their families. We create the visions that we want to be left behind, so that the honesty comes from us. And we tell our own stories with our creativity, with our dance, with our painting, with our music, with our visions tell our story to those who will never get to see and meet us. So art, and as an artist in trying to survive in it, we just got to just continue to be diligent. And I always say to artists, you know, do you know about the reproduction process? Because the reproduction process allows you to create art that can work for you while you're creating art.
I'm Al McFarlane. This is Conversations with Al McFarlane. That was the voice of Charles Caldwell, one of several guests. Charles, I cut you off because I wanted to keep moving the conversation. We'll come back around to you in a minute. But I wanted to bring Doug Ewart and then Sean back in and back around to Malako as well. Doug, what about it? How do we navigate? What's the philosophy that guides how we pursue the gift, the genius, the creativity, and at the same time handle the obligation of being a human being? What is that? That means I've got to put food in my mouth. That means hopefully I have shelter. That means that perhaps I have accountability to other human beings, like perhaps a spouse or a parent or a child or animals or crops or a community. How do we negotiate, navigate, find the way of knowing and being that honors everything that we are and is reflected in our creativity in a way that's sustainable? What do you think, Doug Ewart? Douglas Ewart, sorry.
Unmute yourself.
Oh yeah, you're muted. Okay, yeah, you're muted.
I muted myself so you wouldn't hear any rattling of papers and stuff.
Okay.
Anyway, I think that quality of life is something that's crucial, and Brother Charles indicated that. I think, you know, people too often romanticize the lives of people that are called artists, and so they act as though we don't have families, we don't pay rent, we don't do what humans do, which is we should have a quality of life. And I don't believe that you need to suffer to be a great artist. I was saying that while we are living, you need to have a quality of life. You need to be able to have medical treatment. You need to be able to take your children somewhere, have a vacation. It took me years before I could have a vacation, meaning to go somewhere other than, you know, travel to play, which I've been fortunate enough to do a lot of that. Charles's legacy is a beautiful one because his some of his offsprings have he's passed the baton on. I think it's for me as a musician, I've been really fortunate because I've been able to teach as an artist in residence. And as an artist in residence, I eventually gained a professorship through a friend of mine that I substituted for at the School of the Art Institute and later became a professor there, which and went into schools prior to that through a project called Urban Gateways in Chicago, which afforded me to stay in my province in a certain way. In other words, I was able to teach music. I was able to learn particular songs in addition to the ones that I already knew from my culture. And thereby I was practicing my craft all the time. So that's a great privilege and an important one to where if you can get work that pays you, that keeps you either as a painter, a musician, a dancer, a poet, whatever your area of practice is. My practice is diverse in that I make things, I invent things, I paint. And another thing that Charles mentioned is the area of reproduction, because I'm not always that anxious about selling my work. People sometimes think that if they can buy everything, and they can't. There's some pieces that you're not interested in selling, and people will come to you. Well, and they'll try to even increase the price, almost like a bribe, and you're like, this is not for sale. And I have pieces like that that I'm glad I never sold, although I really needed the money. I think it's important as an artist to hold the veto power. By that, I mean to not always do things that people like or to get house, as we say, meaning to get people to applaud you. Sometimes you have to do things that are annoying to people, that make people upset. I think that's part of my job, and I relish doing it because it means having a certain kind of commitment to the work and to your vision. You're not always right, but you have to learn how to stand fast about some things because you are correct, and sometimes you won't know until the time bears you out. But it's important to make a stand and to be interrogating and also to listen to constructive criticism because it's important. It's important for growth. I know that we have a limited time. And so one of the things that I thought about, and maybe, I don't know if we'll get to the images, but
AZ, if you have the images, put up some of the images that we have for Douglas Ewart.
I wanted to mention this particular artist, the late Eric Dolphy. I've dedicated two of the pieces, the images here, to him. And Mr. McFarlane, when you were speaking earlier, you were talking, and Maleku, when you were speaking about not being accepted, not being supported. Eric Dolphy was a consummate artist and really a great composer and an incredible musician on all his instruments. And he created a whole new direction with the bass clarinet. This is a wood burning idea of Eric Dolphy and his trajectory in terms of both earth and space bound. That's how his music was for me. And there's an Africa in the background, the intelligence of Africans, the futuristic notion that we have, that we are futurist. I know there's this talk now about Afrofuturism, and I have my issues with that because I think we've always been futuristic. But I also understand the importance of new language or putting things in a new way with new language to bolster it. Maybe you can go to the next image so that I can quickly just show you the next image of Eric Dolphy, because it's a piece that involves a bass clarinet and taking an obsolete instrument, which is a work of art in itself, and then creating a work of art using an obsolete clarinet instead of dismantling it or throwing it away. Can we get to the next image?
Yeah, AZ, can you change the slide to the one that says
Eric Dolphy, Sonic Dread.
Sonic Dread? Yeah,
Yeah.
There we go. Mm-hmm.
Sonic Dread is the idea of how we look at dreadlocks. The Rastas were influenced by the Mau Mau of the Kikuyu tribe of Kenya that fought so vigorously and diligently for independence. That was the tribe that Jomo Kenyatta belonged to. And Eric Dolphy was a really powerful musician, and yet he wasn't supported, and he had to go to Europe and actually died in Europe because he was a diabetic and didn't realize it, and was suffering from a diabetic shock and was taken to the hospital, and they thought he was a drug addict. And so, well, at least that's one of the stories. And so he wasn't.
They changed, bring the next one up. Truth is power. Go ahead, Douglas.
Truth is power. I hate when people say truth to power, because I don't really see. I think people mistake authority and power, and they're really two different things. There are people that have authority and have no internal power, like number 45. You can see the vacancy and the vapidness in him. And so when we speak the truth is the power. And we don't have to think about anybody being beyond the truth. So I don't espouse to the notion of truth to power. I say truth is power. And Marcus Garvey said the pen is mightier than the sword, and the tongue is mightier than both of them put together. Maybe the next slide quickly. This is George Floyd Bunt staff. This is my latest invention using bunt pans, and the notion that bunt pans are baking tins, but they have great sonic, they have great resonance. And the idea of bunting was like bunting with baseball, although my sister argues with me that George Floyd didn't make a sacrifice, but I think he made a sacrifice because we don't know what it was on his mind that day. And so it's the idea of bunting with in baseball is you make a sacrifice by touching the ball and it drops to you, and those that are on base get to run home. And so this is called the George Floyd Bunt staff, like the staff of life, the staff of a new trajectory, the wake-up call that we arrived at because of the murder and the way that the murder was committed and the confluence of COVID. I'll stop there because I know some of my colleagues would like to have a moment as well.
Brother Sean, let me go to you, Sean Garrison. Just react any way you want to what's on your mind. And I don't know if you have any items that you want to screen share, Sean?
Yeah, I'm gonna screen share those in like 2 minutes. I'm gonna try to condense. I'm gonna make this comment real quick.
Yeah.
To your question about our people and valuing art, and also to a few comments that Charles made. First off, I'm gonna say, Charles, you've been an influence not just to your kids, and I think I told you this before, but to myself. Because I remember Charles used to walk up and down Knox Avenue in a suit with like 90,000 degrees outside with his portfolio in his hand. I'm like, who is this cat? For years, right? And so to see myself back and come full circle and be sitting here even in the same room as Charles just cracks me up. So I remember when, right? So I appreciate you, brother. But as far as surviving as an artist, right? I don't, and I do understand, the starving artist cliche or whatnot. And I don't, I'm trying to. That's almost non-existent to me, right? I know it's real, but I don't buy into that. In that, one thing artists I think need to do, all artists, we need to get business minds, right? If I think all artists would take like a crash course in business 101, especially marketing, and that's it. Right? What happens? We have these great right side of the mind people, wonderfully creative people, create these masterpieces, as Charles notes, but we can't sell them, because we're in this, and what we're in this pool of millions of artists with millions of products, and we look at our products as our art as opposed to art as a product. That's how I look at that's how I have to look at my work. Being that I'm relatively new to this, I've been writing for 30 some odd years, painting for about 11, and my academic background is in advertising and marketing. So when I started this thing, I said, wow, how am I going to be able to stand out to sell work? Right? Because the worst thing is artists, especially visual artists, to have is artwork sitting around your place. I create artwork so that baby can go find a new home. I don't want it sitting growing up around me. But I think that comes with that business sense that we need to have. Part of that as artists, I think, we understand how to diversify what we're doing as artists. Charles mentioned reproductions. That's a great piece. When I figured out the numbers behind it, I said, wow, this is heavy. Everybody can't afford maybe a $10,000 piece, but 1,000 people can afford a $50 print. And so that's the way I look. I look at things, right? And it's not solely from a monetary standpoint. That's not the genesis of me creating. I create because I have something to say. Mm-hmm. But I also understand if I want to do this thing full time, I need to be able to support myself. I have a 9-to-5 as well, and I'm not sure anybody from the office is watching, but hey, I'm looking to burn the boat sometime this year because my job is to go out here and create and put whatever God put me out here to the world and hopefully change at least one mind. And there's different ways to do that. And we have to figure out how to diversify what we do. We can't just sell, nowadays we can't just sell the print. We got to say, here's the image. Maybe here's a shower curtain. Matter of fact, I know an artist right now. She's selling her artwork on mugs, shower curtains, bags, you name it. The artwork is on there. And as artists, that's how we have to think to sustain ourselves. And the way I see it, the original becomes more valuable because only one person can have that, but many people can have these different items. But anyway, but also understand new platforms. I think I mentioned this to Charles at one point when we were talking the whole NFT piece. NFTs, if you're not familiar with it, that's a whole nother realm for artists to really dig into. And it's been lucrative for a lot of people. And what happens is we tend to get to we tend to catch the bus late. But this platform is relatively young. And if we as artists don't understand this platform, then we're cheating ourselves. My goal for myself and any other artists that I know that I can help is, hey, quit your day job, do art full time, because that's where our passion is, right? We'll do art 25 hours out the day if we could. But anyway, I digress. Artwork, here we go.
Pull up a couple of pieces, yeah.
Yes, I'm about to put that up. Let me see if I can do this right. Share screen.
And when we're down to about 5 minutes, I want to make sure I get brother Malaku Bile in before we close out here.
Okay, come on, make this as quick as possible. So I've never done this. So brothers, be patient.
So while you're pulling it up, you pulled up. Malaku, jump in the conversation, brother. Just impressions on this conversation. And to me, one of the critical things is this notion of how we achieve sustainability. And as Charles was saying, if we found ways to share our product, to sell our product, our art, to 1 million of each other around the planet, we create a network of sharing and of acquisition that it is real, that's meaningful for ourselves individually and for our culture. What do you think, Brother Malaku?
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you. The beginning is I start kind of my ego way of expression. That's lack of my English also is not comfortable for me. Yes, the goal is I believe the goal is for justice, for be human being. The only solution is art. That's why we start. So I believe also artists he need uh, income generate and to making himself to express what you want, not only personally, to fight for the other artists to open opportunity. And because his art formals already is uh, all in what's going on in all over the world is like the only solution through the art to make preach and to fight. And the altitude of here in Ethiopia, there is not art support. There is no the business people is not understanding the creativity area, and so that's why I start first. I'm not also I can't writing project. When I focus to project, I forget my creativity. So and that the lack of that many artists in outside is still they don't produce same art to give for the world for address for people. So that's why I'm angry and I start fighting to make this income generate. After I keep my creativity, also I open creativity for my friends and become also my culture, bring it to the world and become now, uh, before I'm alone now become like around 43 people together and affecting fast. Today I'm in front of you through that art to come together. We meet you and to learn from you guys. So I remember when George Floyd died, and we feel it, the pain, and we did also here and through the art to. I hope you understand. My English is not really full,
You're
but
perfectly, but we're out of time though too. Listen, just to say what you said is so important, and the connection that you feel what's happening. We feel each other around the planet. It's the obligation then is that we become more intentional in connecting. We're able to screen share at all, Sean, because we got about 1 minute. And if not, you know what? Let's do this again. I think that this conversation is too important to be a one-time deal. And if all of you would agree, I'd love to come back next week, next Tuesday, and just continue this conversation. I think that it might be worthwhile, Charles and Brother Douglas Ewart, to set up a series. I don't know that there's anywhere that I know where a group of artists and communicators are meeting regularly like this and just talking. And if you guys are interested in joining me, I'm interested in suggesting that we continue this conversation.
yes.
Okay, listen, I'm going to take that as a yes from all of you.
Yes,
And I
yes,
want to
yes,
thank all of you for being here.
Thank you
For
very
what
much.
you're doing. And I want to thank those who are listening for being a part of this conversation. Share this conversation if you're with us on Facebook or YouTube. Subscribe and join us again next week. With God willing and the creek don't rise, as they say. We're going to all be back next week and have a continuation of this conversation about our genius, our creativity, our humanity, and our commitment, our investment in changing the world, creating a world in which we win. We win.
yes.
Doesn't mean somebody else has to lose. We're going to say something different about what winning means. I'm Al McFarlane. We'll see you next time.